The real reason dogs stare at you is creepy, and it's not what you think. Have you ever caught your furry friend giving you that intense, unblinking stare? You know the one I'm talking about, where it feels like they're trying to peer into your soul. Well, buckle up because we're about to dive into the mysterious world of canine communication, and what we uncover might send shivers down your spine. First up is the classic feed me stare. You know the one. It usually comes with drool and maybe a well-timed whine. This behavior has its roots in puppyhood. When wolf pups were weaning, they licked their mother's mouths to stimulate regurgitation of food. Gross, right? But it's a survival mechanism. Our domesticated dogs have adapted this behavior to stare at us when they're hungry, essentially saying, "Hey, food dispenser, it's chow time." But here's where things get interesting. Have you ever noticed your dog staring at you while you're eating? Even if they just had their own meal, it's not always about food. Sometimes they're studying you, learning about your eating habits and figuring out where their place is in the pack. Their behavior harks back to their wolf ancestors, where understanding the social hierarchy was crucial for survival. Speaking of social hierarchies, let's talk about the I love you stare. You know, that soft gaze that makes your heart melt. That loving look actually releases oxytocin in both you and your dog. That's right, the same hormone that bonds mothers to their babies is at work in your relationship with your furry friend. It's nature's way of cementing your friendship. Pretty cool, huh? But wait, there's more. And trust me, you'll want to stick around for this next part. It's about to get even more fascinating. Have you ever caught your dog staring at you while you're doing something mundane? Like folding laundry or working on your laptop. You might think they're just bored, but there's something more fascinating going on. Dogs are constantly learning from us. They're like furry little anthropologists, studying our every move to understand our world. When they stare at you during everyday activities, they're trying to figure out what you're doing and why it's important to you. It's their way of bridging the gap between our two species. Now, here's where things get a bit creepy. Have you ever felt like your dog can read your mind? Like they know exactly what you're thinking or feeling, even before you do? You're not alone, and you're not imagining things. Dogs have an uncanny sense to pick up on our emotional states. They can detect subtle changes in our body language, tone of voice, and even our scent that indicates our mood. When they stare at us intently, they're often trying to gauge our emotional state or predict our next move. It's like they have a sixth sense for human emotions. But here's the kicker. Some scientists believe that dogs might actually be able to smell our emotions. Yeah, you heard that right. Studies have shown that dogs can detect chemical changes in our bodies that occur with different emotions. So when your dog is staring at you, they might be literally sniffing out your feelings. Now I know what you're thinking. That's fascinating, but you promised us something creepy. Well, buckle up, because we're about to take a turn into the twilight zone of canine behavior. What's coming up next might change the way you look at your furry friend forever. Remember how we talked about dogs' wild ancestors? Here's where that ancient DNA comes into play, in a way that might make you see your furry friend in a different light. In the wild, sustained eye contact is often seen as a challenge or a threat. When two wolves lock eyes, it's usually a prelude to a fight. But our domesticated dogs have flipped this behavior. When they stare at us, they're not challenging us, they're studying us, reading us, trying to anticipate our next move. But why would they need to do that? Some experts believe this intense staring behavior is a holdover from their predatory past. In the wild, predators need to be aware of their prey's movements, anticipating when to strike. Now, before you start eyeing Fido suspiciously, let me be clear. Your dog doesn't see you as prey, but that ancient instinct is to watch, study, and anticipate is still there, buried deep in their DNA. When they stare at you, they're tapping into that primal part of themselves, reading your every move not to hunt you, but to understand you better. It's like having a friendly, furry little predator in your home, constantly studying you. Creepy? Maybe a little. Fascinating? Absolutely. But wait, there's more. This next part is truly mind-blowing. You won't want to miss it. For example, there have been many cases of dogs detecting serious health issues in their owners long before any symptoms appeared. From cancer to impending seizures, dogs have alerted their humans to health problems through changes in their behavior, including intense staring. Next time you catch your dog giving you that intense gaze, remember, they might see something about you that you can't see yourself. It's like having a furry guardian angel, always watching and alert. But let's lighten the mood a bit. For all the unsettling aspects of dog staring, there are many heartwarming reasons behind those puppy dog eyes. These next few facts might just melt your heart away. For instance, did you know that dogs often stare at their favorite humans because they want affection? Just like we gaze lovingly at someone we care about. Dogs use eye contact to bond with us. So if your pup is giving you those intense googly eyes, they might be saying, "Hey, how about some cuddles?" Here's a fun fact. Dogs are one of the few animals that seek eye contact with humans. Most animals, even domesticated ones, tend to avoid direct eye contact, as it can seem threatening, but dogs have evolved to communicate with us through their eyes. It's like they've developed their own secret language just for us. Speaking of secret languages, have you heard of the eyebrow raise? It's a facial movement dogs have developed over thousands of years of domestication. When a dog raises its eyebrows, especially the inner corners, it makes their eyes look larger and more infant-like. This triggers a nurturing response in humans, making us go, "Aww," and wants us to take care of them. Clever, right? Not all dogs are equally good at the eyebrow raise. Studies show that shelter dogs who are better at this movement are adopted more quickly. It's like they've evolved an adorable superpower to tug at our heartstrings. Now let's dive into the science behind dog staring. Did you know that dogs are one of the only non-primate species that can follow human eye gaze? This means they not only look at our eyes, but also understand what we're looking at. It's a skill that even chimpanzees struggle with. This ability likely evolved as dogs became domesticated. Those who understood human gestures and gaze are more successful in human environments, leading to better survival and passing on their genes. They've been slowly evolving to become perfect human companions. Here's something that might surprise you. This skill isn't just learned, it's hardwired into their brains. Puppies as young as 8 weeks old can follow human gaze and gestures without any prior training. It's like they're born with an innate understanding of how to communicate with us. Now let's talk about a phenomenon every dog owner knows, the guilty look. You know the one where you come home and find a mess, and your dog sits there with big sad eyes, looking like they're about to confess. Well, here's a shocker. That look might not mean what you think. Studies show that the guilty look is a response to human body language and tone of voice, not a genuine expression of guilt. When dogs stare at us with sad eyes after misbehaving, they're not expressing remorse, they're reacting to our anger or disappointment. It's their way of trying to appease us and avoid conflict. This brings us to an important point. We shouldn't always interpret dog behavior through a human lens. Dogs have their own way of perceiving and interacting with the world, and their actions might mean something different from what we assume. For example, have you noticed your dog staring at you while they're, doing their business outside? As awkward as it might feel for us, for dogs, this is a vulnerable moment. Making eye contact, they're seeking reassurance that you've got their back while they're in a compromising position. It's their way of saying, hey, you're on lookout duty, right? Stick with me, because this next part might change how you interact with your dog forever. When your dog stares at you, they're not just looking at you, they're looking into you. They're reading your body language, sensing your emotions, and maybe even smelling changes in your body chemistry. Your dog might understand aspects of you that you don't even understand yourself. In many ways, that intense doggy stare is a window into the unique relationship we've built with these animals over thousands of years. It's a reminder of how far we've come together, and how, despite our differences, we've found a way to communicate and connect. Dogs are truly amazing. To discover the gross truth about why dogs lick you, click the video on the screen now. It's a must watch. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.